Hello, everyone. You are listening to the Define University podcast, a space designed for educators to ignite your passion, transform your mindset, and learn to love who you are in the process. My name is Lindsay Titus, and I am here to share simple yet strategic steps each week with you to build your momentum into creating a life full of purpose and passion. The time is now. Let's dive on into today's episode. Welcome back, everyone, to another brand new episode of the Define University podcast. My name is Lindsay Titus, and I am the host. But more importantly than that, I'm so excited you are here. If you are new to the podcast, welcome. And if you are a returning listener, thanks so much for coming back. I love recording these podcasts for you guys every single week, and I'm just honored that you are here listening and taking in, hopefully, all this goodness that I am about to share with you in this episode. If you're new, every now and then I like to just kind of give a little background as to what the Define You podcast is and what you can expect. And so this is one of those weeks where it's you and me, just you and me. And I'm going to be talking on one of my favorite topics today, which is how do we use affirmations? And I'm going to curtail it and really make it specific to you in your classroom or your school building. But certainly all of these strategies can be used just for in your life in general too. Here in Define University, we like to believe in the world of and. So it is possible to love your life inside and outside of the classroom. You do not have to pick one. It is not an or. And so any strategy I ever share, it is always a personal and professional strategy. Sometimes just takes a little tweak, right, to make it work in different settings. So on these kind of weeks, it's you and me, and I'm sharing generally on a topic that I'm super passionate about. And then every other week, make sure you check out the amazing guest interviews that I have on the Share Your Story series. So every other week, I bring on a guest. We talk about their mission and their story and what brings them joy. And you just never know what's going to come from those episodes, which is part of my favorite pieces about them. So with that, that's kind of what we do here at Define University. We are all about mindset. We are all about transforming your life from the inside out. When generally as educators, we are taught to work on the outside and then hopefully if you have time, work on the inside. So Define University, we've put a spin to that and we start on the inside knowing that internally or within, when we are solid and strong in who we are, we get to show up for everybody else powerful and strong in who we are. And that, my friends, is what Define University is all about. So we're going to jump into this week's episode, which again is all about how do we use affirmations in our classroom or our school building. So before we even dive into that, how about we read an affirmation card? I thought that would be fun. So I recently in my morning routine have started using different card decks. I have several. I was going to link them in the show notes, but to be perfectly honest with you, I have yet to come across a deck I haven't really loved. So, I will put the decks that I use, but be open. Like, don't just go get one because Lindsay has it. Like, do some research, see ones that like really call to you. But if you want at least a starting point, check out the show notes. I've got them listed there. But I recently picked up a deck that's a little different. So most of the decks I have, you pick a card and then there is a book that goes with it that kind of gives you an elaboration of the meaning of that card. But this deck that I just picked up, it's called Affirmators, and it's 50 affirmation cards to help you help yourself without the self-helpiness. Super fun, right? So these cards they're kind of hysterical. So the card that I picked to share with you today says this. It says, follow your heart. I'm always rewarded when I follow my heart. I trust that the GPS in my heart knows all the best routes. And when it seems like it's taking too long to get where I want, I know that's because there's some cool, weird stuff to see along the way. And if you can picture this, there is a picture of a heart, like a biological, like medical heart, riding a surfboard, holding an umbrella, riding a wave. And so it's a really fun way. And I think these cards would be great to embed into maybe an upper elementary or a middle school classroom too, because they are not, there's not like spirituality embedded and there's no like religion. It's simply just here are some affirmations to kickstart your day. So I wanted to start with that. If that is a message you needed to hear, I am so glad. And yes, always remember to follow that inner GPS because your heart always knows where we are going. I love to say when it's with kids, start with their hearts. It connects to their minds. Honestly, it's the same with us. When we start in our heart, what gets us going? What are we passionate? What are we called to do? The actions we take become a whole lot easier. All right. So let's dive into some content. What do you think? So we're going to talk first on just what is an affirmation. Okay. So if I'm talking about using affirmation cards or affirmations in the classroom, what is it? Well, an affirmation it's a phrase or a statement that we repeat to ourselves that serve us. Okay. So the difference there is we're not just saying it to say it. We are saying it because it serves us. So it's encouragement. They're encouraging words that we can say to ourselves to encourage, to motivate us, to inspire us, to remind us, right? So, but at the very basic level, they're phrases and statements. They are words we speak to ourselves. So you might be wondering then, why are they helpful? What do they do? Well, so there are these positive statements, right? And I use positive in the way that they serve us. Okay, so there are these statements that serve us that help us overcome challenge. And really, this is the key part. It helps us overcome self-sabotage and negative thoughts. Now, again, similar to positive, when I'm talking negative, my definition of negative is it does not serve me. It doesn't mean it's bad or wrong. If you are new to Define You, you know those words we do not use here. It's not right or wrong, good or bad. It is what serves me, what gets me closer to the things that I desire, and what pulls me further back, what holds me back or limits me, therefore not serving me to grow and evolve to my next level self, okay? So our thoughts, and I'm not going to go too deep into this because this could be a whole episode on its own. It's actually built into all of my courses. It's that intense. But when we talk about our brain and our minds and the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, we have self-sabotaging thoughts, which means we have loops of thoughts constantly going in our head, thousands of them being subconscious or unconscious, meaning we aren't readily accessing them. We don't necessarily know they're there, but they are. And so without having affirmations, without having this way to, remember, go back to the beginning, to encourage, to motivate, to inspire, to remind, that loop that's not serving you is going to stay the priority. It's going to be screaming and it's not going to hear the whispers in the front, okay? So when we repeat affirmations, we start to rewire our brain. We start to retrain our brain to see things through a different lens, okay? Now, one of my most absolute favorite resources for, in all honesty, all things education, but primarily like social emotional learning, is Pathways to Success. So I have linked her blog and her website. If you have not ever checked it out, go do that. It's going to be in the show notes. But she's got some great articles on positive self-talk with students. And again, that's really what we are talking about here with affirmations, okay? Is it positive self-talk? How do I talk to myself in a way that serves me, okay? And so she gives some benefits, some things to consider about why using self-talk can be really helpful in your classroom. It builds confidence, right? So in order for kids and teenagers and adolescents to feel proud of who they are, they have to practice being proud of who they are. Pride is not always the easiest emotion to teach. And so we have to give kids, or we get to give kids opportunities to remind themselves where their strengths are, who they are, what they are amazing at, right? And so in addition to building confidence, it can also increase motivation, okay? Think about a task that maybe you don't want to do, right? For me, hands down, it is always the dishes. So before I go and do that, my affirmation is going to be, when I engage in tasks that I may not necessarily love, great results still happen, right? And that's a little lengthy. That was me just kind of going off the cuff, but it might just be, I am purposeful in every action that I take. That one sounds better. Let's go with that one. I am purposeful in every action that I take. So there's purpose to doing the dishes, even though I might not want to, because the purpose is I desire the end result of a clean kitchen, dishes to use with my family, right? Everything is orderly. There's a lot of different reasons there. but everything I do with intention, or I'm purpose in every action that I take. Okay, that can help you kind of increase your motivation, and it's the same with our kids. They can serve as a coping strategy. Okay, we all experience the ups and downs, right? The roller coasters of life. Some of our roller coasters are the big scary ones. Some are like kiddie roller coasters. Regardless, positive self-talk is super simple, and it's a technique that you can use anywhere. So again, those of you that have been at Define You a little bit, you know I'm all about small, simple, and strategic. Positive self-talk is a perfect tool that fits into that category. Small means it does not take any time at all. You can do an affirmation in less than 5 seconds. Simple means I do not have to go get anything. You don't have to go buy decks. And actually, most of the things I'm going to talk about today do not involve purchasing anything. You don't have to go get anything. You have everything you need right here. Strategic, it means it aligns to you. So you're going to come up with affirmations that align to you, to your classroom, to your students. And of course, we're doing this with our students, right? For involving them. Last one that she mentions is that it promotes self-love. And as somebody that's been using affirmations for probably almost 4 years now, I would say that's true. Learning to care for who you are is a task, right? It takes work. So anything we can do to remind ourselves who we are is essential. And the important part is this becomes, it's really a process we practice, okay? So I think sometimes we assume that then this means it's going to be what I call like a snap moment, right? I snap my fingers and everything changes. That is not how this works, okay? There is not, you read an affirmation card and then, it's you see the waters open and everything. No, we're not in the movies. Right? We are creating our movie. We are creating our life every single day. So affirmations are not used for quick fixes. They're not used for those, what I call snap moments, but they do impact over time. I just had a client the other day that I was working with, and one of her tasks was to come up with 25 affirmations that align to her specifically. Again, you can find thousands of affirmations out there. But if what you are saying does not align to your values, your desires, your goals, you're just going to be repeating things that they're not aligned. And what I mean by that is your mindset, your language, and your action, you want that to be aligned. Well, if what you're saying in your affirmations isn't aligning with the mindset you're holding and or the actions you're taking, you're going to feel like you're in a constant battle of tug of war with yourself. And you kind of are, right? You're going from this back and forth notion. And so I had her pull this list together. She said the first few times she read it, it was awkward. It was hard to say these great things about herself. But after 2 weeks, it's becoming natural. She's excited to read these every morning and sometimes at night to get her going, to get her, energy boosted for the day, or at the end of the day to remind her of who she is before she settles into bed. That is how powerful they can be, and it can happen in the classroom as well. So again, I mentioned they are truly a perfect example of a small, simple, and strategic strategy, right? They do not take any time or investment. You already have the materials, right? You usually just are going to need paper, markers, maybe a printer and a computer if you want to look some up. And the strategy is all up to you. You get to decide how you're going to do it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just share some ideas on ways that you could bring affirmations into your, again, classroom. You could expand this to your school building or for your life in general. So if you do have affirmation card decks, and again, you can, I don't have them yet, so I can't speak to them, but I just ordered a couple kid decks. And again, you can go right on Amazon. You can search. There's some on Etsy. They're everywhere. So they're very evident. They're pretty low value. So they're about $10 to $12 per deck. And certainly I will update you guys as I look through them. But, if you have a deck, okay, and again, this is not necessary because I mentioned before, you do not have to purchase anything. But if you do, if you have one, or if you find some online that you print out, right? Or you use index cards and you write them out yourself. Once you have a deck, you could pull a card when you arrive to work. Notice I said you, not when the students arrive, when you arrive. Kind of how I did at the beginning of this podcast. Set your intention for that day. Set your intention, set your thoughts in moving the momentum the way that you want it, that you desire it. And so if you have this grounding activity that as soon as you come into your classroom, you pull a card and here's what today's going to be, you've already started that momentum. You could pull a card during morning meeting and have a discussion about it with your class. What does it mean to you to follow your heart? What do you think it means that you trust the GPS in your heart? I thought GPSs were in cars. What does that mean? And have conversation about it. You could pull a card at the end of the day and talk about how or actions from that day, how did it align with the card that you pull? Another idea is to have students create their own decks of cards. Now, I'm going to go back to the definition of what we talked about an affirmation is. It is phrases or statements that we repeat to ourselves that serve us. So as students come across affirmations, as they understand things differently, you could have them have a affirmation deck in their desk that they add to. Once they find quotes, they find lyrics, they find things that serve them, okay? And they could create their own deck. You can post affirmations around your classroom, right? Some student created and some for you too. So, I think one of the things that I started to see probably about 3 years ago, maybe 2 to 3 years ago, on Pinterest, on social media from teachers, is putting affirmations on mirrors, right? Which I love. I am all about. You guys know, if you have the 30 or 90 day journal, I'm all about mirror moments, which is where I take the daily dose of inspiration and I give you your affirmation statements for the day to be done in front of the mirror. I love that. But the one thing I loved about something I just saw when I was looking for information on today's episode is actually putting a name to it. So I saw an educator that called it the affirmation station. And there was a listing of how do you use the affirmation statement or station. Because I think what sometimes we do as educators or as teachers, or I do it as a mom, is I put something up or I get something and I make an assumption that everybody's going to know how to use it. Just because I put affirmations around a mirror, some kids might not know that it's meant to be reading them when you're at the mirror. And so by having it as a designated station, it really provides that purpose to it. Okay. I also really suggest to put mini post-its of affirmations that work for you around your classroom. Okay. So, maybe it's in the top corner of your whiteboard. Maybe it's on your laptop. Maybe it's in your planner. So every time you open your planner, it's like, boom, there's my affirmation. Make sure that, around your classroom, you have the reminders that you need as well. So you can continue using that positive self-talk. Okay. All right. What else can you do? You can also include affirmation cards into your calming corner or a calming bin. Okay. They are a great coping strategy, that practicing that positive self-talk. You could use one as a journal reflection, right? Ask students what they think it means. How does it connect to them personally? Okay. You could use it to start off a community building circle. If you are familiar with restorative practices, that would be a great kind of intro. What does this mean to you? And you're going to see different perspectives. You're going to be able to pull in different cultures, different backgrounds, different thought processes. And that's how we all learn from one another, right? In creating your classroom community. A couple ideas that I saw on the Pathways to Success website is using beach ball affirmations. So she would take a beach ball, write affirmations on the different colors, right? Throw it to one another, and wherever their thumbs land is their affirmation you read. A lot of these ones were I am statements, right? I am powerful. I am brave. I am loving. I am compassionate, right? And you get to decide what is on there, okay? Another one for older students were to print out lyrics to popular songs and find affirmations embedded within them, right? This would be a great way to tie in current relevant information from our students and see what affirmations are in there, and they could take those and create their own deck for themselves. Another resource, in addition to Pathways to Success, that I wanted to make sure to mention today is if you are not familiar with books and you are an elementary teacher, just check it out. So it's active books online, I guess. So it's reading a picture book, but the characters move. Trying to think how to describe this. And I use it with my daughter at home. So she's going into second grade. And so every now and then we will listen to a story. And we found this company that writes a bunch of books, and they're called the Slumberkins. So I'm going to post the link again in the show notes. But if you are like preschool, elementary, lower elementary, these books have affirmations embedded into each story, and they are very social, emotionally driven. So they talk about things like gratitude, problem solving, emotions, and resilience. Okay. And it just I just loved them. Like I secretly every night was like, can we pick another Slumberkins, Kaylee? And she loved them too, but sometimes she didn't love them as much as her mom, but that's okay. But they're just really cool. So as I was kind of coming up with ideas for this podcast, I wanted to make sure I shared that. What else? So the last thing that I really just wanted to mention is, again, I wanted to kind of hit on a couple of my favorites, which again, I have yet to find, a specific deck that I don't love. But 2 places I'm going to recommend that you go check out. One I already mentioned, which is Amazon. Again, has tons of them. You can simply Google affirmation card decks, affirmation cards for adults. If you want to get a little specific, you could say affirmation cards for self-love, affirmation cards to reduce anxiety. Like, you can get really specific in that nature. One other place to check out is Hay House, Hay House. That's where a lot of the cards that I have come from. So, I feel like I just chatted a whole bunch. How was that for 20 minutes? So, hopefully, I'm assuming if you've made it to the end, my thoughts on incorporating affirmations into your school, into your classroom or school. And what I really didn't touch on is the school piece. But in all honesty, if we go back and look at those, you could use a card at a faculty meeting, right? You could put affirmations in your staff's mailboxes. You could sign every email with an affirmation of the day. You could post an affirmation around the school building. You could have an affirmation of the week. The idea is so common with so much of what we do. The how isn't really the hard part. We live in a day and age where if I can't find something, I can go ask somebody and I know I'm going to figure it out. What can block us is not having that solid why. And that's why it was really important for me to talk about why are they important. And it really helps at getting this self-talk kind of under control so we know how we are talking to ourselves. Because again, we know at Define University, that's where it all begins, right? We all come with limiting beliefs. Those beliefs then really ignite our thoughts, right? The thoughts we are having elicit the feelings we feel, which lead to the actions we take and the results that then happen. So often we want to change our actions. We want to do something different. We want to do more or do less. And I'm here to tell you that is only going to work for a short period of time because eventually you will burn out, you will resent, you will get frustrated, you will get overwhelmed. Now, how do I know that? It's because that was my life. It was my life for years. When I finally figured out how truly, truly important and powerful our thoughts are, this type of work went to the top. I do mirror moments every day. I do them with my daughter. I build them into my trainings. They are that important to me. And I hope after this episode, you can see why they are so important to start bringing into our classroom too. All right. So I want to know, do you use affirmations? I would love for you to share this out on social media. Let me know your favorite way to use affirmations. And if you don't use them, based on this episode, what's something that you're considering bringing into your classroom in the fall or this school year? I'd love to know. I would love to connect with you. So please make sure you rate, review, subscribe, and again, share this out on social media. Make sure to tag me in it so we can connect and I can continue to learn from you as hopefully you have done here on the podcast this week and every week. So I'm going to be back same time, same place next week. So until then, everyone, keep on loving who you are, trusting who you are, owning who you are, because those together will help you define who you are each and every day. I hope you all have an amazing week ahead, and I will talk to you soon.